introduce it here. Paracasual Destiny Podcast presents the second installment of Greenstego's Mod Academy.
All right, y'all. Now, this actually popped up a little bit ago where the keen-eared among you may have heard when Sultime was talking about his build that he wasn't able to perfect the build that he wanted due to his elemental affinities on his armor, and that is the subject of today's Mod Academy focus. We're focusing on the elemental affinity and what that means and what those mods entail. Mm-hmm. We're not going into the combat mod slot today. We're just focusing on the armor pieces, like the helmet. In the helmet slot, there's going to be one elemental affinity mod left over. It's like a hangover. It's like a vestigial adaptation from when they used to have all the like auto rifle and hand cannon mods used to be allocated by elemental affinity, and then it felt really random and you couldn't really tell what was going on. But now they've simplified it, and for each of these, the elemental affinities really only dictate that what ability mod you can put into your armor, and there's like a theme for each of them. So if you got an arc armor piece, the ability mods are going to be melee focused. If you got a solar armor piece, the ability mods are going to be grenade focused. And if you got a void armor piece, it's going to be class ability focused. And then likewise, the helmet is also, they have a common theme where it gets super energy. So the arc helmet is you get bonus super energy when getting melee kills. Solar helmet is bonus super energy for grenade kills. And this new one, as of I guess you could call it Armor 2.5 when they rehauled Armor 2.0 in the mods, is you get bonus super energy for using your class ability near enemies. So if you want to be like a hunter and you're like running into the thick of it and you're dodging around the enemies and you want to get super energy, when you do that, you want to void helmet so that you can put that on.
I wish they had called that mod Mosh Pit. That would seem like an appropriate name for that mod, just to go into a crowd of enemies and dash around.
Yeah.
To get your super back.
That would be really funny.
I really like the way you called this Armor 2.5, because that was a huge thing when they did away with elemental weapon mods, right? Mm-hmm. The weapon mods were no longer associated with an elemental affinity.
Yeah.
Which was huge.
And you can still see some of that in like some of the charge with light mods. Like there's one sustained charge where it's a solar mod and you get charged with light by rapidly defeating combatants with auto rifles, trace rifles, or machine guns. And so they still have these like kind of paired up with the weapon types are kind of associated with an element, but
not directly.
For the most part. But not directly. For the most part, that is gone. Because it really didn't feel... It was weird. And I couldn't keep track of it. Mm-hmm. Anyway, moving on down to arms. Mm-hmm. These ones replenish the ability energy of what you're focusing on based on when you do either melee or grenade damage. So if it's arc, you want to be using your melee more, so it gives you your melee energy when you get a kill with a grenade. Okay. And so solar is like the other way around. Its solar is grenade focused. It gives you grenade energy when you get a melee kill.
Oh, okay. Yeah. I get it now.
And then the void ones are new for this 2.5. They kind of like slid under the radar because the mod system is still confusing and a little weird.
Yeah.
But these void arm mods are brand new as of mod armor 2.5, where you get there's like a choice. There's two of them, and they both replenish your class ability energy. And there's one for melee and one for grenade. So if you get a grenade kill, it replenishes your class ability, or if you get a melee kill, it replenishes your class ability.
Mm-hmm. Interesting. Yeah.
The chest piece, that actually has nothing to do with abilities. It just gives a elemental damage resistance. We can just kind of basically skip past that one.
Right. It's damage reduction from incoming damage of the element that matches your armor. So if you have an arc chest, you have the choice of doing arc damage reduction on it for that mod. Yeah, okay.
So if you're getting like sniped by hobgoblins, you probably want to put on a solar chest piece and put on the solar resistance and the sniper damage resistance or something like that.
Right.
Personally, I think that the elemental damage resistance is like, it doesn't need to be that specific. I think that they're using them just because they already have the elemental affinity system in place.
Right. That would make sense.
Right.
The legs have to do with, remember from last time, scavenger perks, running over things and picking them up.
Yep.
Running over things and picking them up. This is where you find your bonuses for running over orbs and picking them up. And I remember 2 weeks ago, we got a comment in the chat about how that was a class item perk, and it was in Armor 2.0, but in Armor 2.5, they shifted those up to the boots.
Ah, okay.
So if it's arc, then you can get melee energy when picking up an orb, or if it's solar, then grenade energy when picking up an orb, and if it's void, you can get class ability when picking up an orb. But there's also like a couple bonuses for getting some healing done when picking up an orb. And so you can either pick, if you've got solar, you have the option for like a finite health chunk heal, which is better if you're like under constant fire. And a void begins your regeneration, begins your recovery. And so that's better if you can pick up an orb out of fire, because then it'll heal you all the way.
Right.
Wow. But the arc they didn't give arc an additional bump in anything.
No.
On orb pickup. It's just getting...
I wonder if it's coming.
Probably
it just
not.
seems lopsided just to give solar and void extra stuff. Extra options.
It does. I would think that they would have something like increased damage resistance for a short period after picking up an orb or something.
Yeah, something. Just something so that it's balanced out. Now,
right. And there's not any really rhyme or reason to it, right? Because I'm thinking about it and it's like, well, is it that arc subclasses have inherently health regen or health bumps, but there's not really. I mean, not that I know for the hunter. I mean, I think there are some things that you can do that can like increase your some trees.
Yeah,
that increase your ability to recover your health, but not like crazy. Yeah. It's weird.
My guess is they just already had these perks, which, as I recall, like in D2, either D1 or like D2 Forsaken, you would usually see these on like helmets. but I can't remember. But anyway, they already had these perks floating around in the system, and I think they were just like, all right, armor 2.5, we're shuffling things up. These are going to go in the boots. We need an elemental affinity for them. This one that heals is solar, and this one that recovers is void. Everyone good with that? And I just don't think Arc really entered into the equation, into the dialogue.
Right.
So if let's say I have solar boots, and my elemental affinity mod choices are either get grenade energy back by picking up orbs, or I have another choice of a completely different mod that can give me healing on orb pickup.
Yeah.
Okay. So it's like two choices. And then with Arc, you only have the one choice. You get your melee back, melee energy by picking up orbs. Gotcha.
All right. And then class item has two themes going for it. One is finisher. So a finisher will replenish your melee ability using some of your super energy. Solar will replenish your grenade energy using some of your super energy. And then on Void, a finisher will replenish your class ability, requiring a little bit of super energy. But they also have the same healing perks as well associated with those. So Solar also has a finisher heals you. And then a Void one is it gives an overshield. That's pretty cute. But that requires a fourth of your super energy. So that's nuts. But an overshield is nice. Anyway, the other theme for class items is using your class ability. Using your class ability gives you energy for the associated ability. So if it's an Arc class item, then you can put on using your class ability gives you melee energy. And if it's Solar, using your class ability gives you grenade energy, and if it's Void, using your class ability replenishes your class ability. So it kind of makes the cooldown shorter.
Interesting. So two themes there: one finishers and one class ability. When you use your, it's so confusing.
Yeah, it's it feels needlessly confusing, and especially when you consider the fact that these are fighting for real estate for your ammo-related perks. They usually just lose out to the ammo-related perks.
That's what I was thinking.
Especially since the ammo is no longer elemental. The elemental affinity doesn't play into it, so you basically just you don't need to care about elemental affinity. You're like, I got my boots, I'm going to put on my scavenger perks. And that usually is going to be more bang for your buck anyway.
It almost seems like this is a step. You had 2.0 where elemental affinity mattered for both weapons mods and, class abilities and what it is now for armor mods. And then 2.5 did away with class elemental affinity applied to weapons mods, so it didn't matter what your armor piece was in terms of Arc, Solar, or Void. You got you had access to all the weapon mods, and it almost seems like it's a stepping stone to 3.0, whatever that's going to be, right? I wonder if this is a transition to doing away with elemental affinity mods altogether, which would make the system so much simpler or easier access. Yeah.
Yeah. Because there's this whole system for changing the elemental affinity of your armor, which sucks. The cost is pretty steep. It costs if you've got a completely unupgraded armor piece that only has one energy in it, then it costs 1 upgrade module to just convert it over to the elemental affinity that you want.
Mm-hmm.
But if it's already upgraded, then you kind of have like 2 choices if you hover over it. Like if you've got an armor piece that's energy level 7, that has 7 armor mod energy in it, then you hover over it, then it has 2 choices for each of the other 2 slots. So let's say I'm looking at like a solar helmet at energy 7, and I hover over the elemental affinity solar symbol, and it brings down 2 arcs and 2 voids. One is resetting it to arc, but bringing it down to level 1, and the other one is resetting it to arc and then bringing it up to the same level 7.
Okay, which is a lot more costly.
It costs not quite the same as resetting it down to level 1 and then starting over and then clicking through the upgrades one at a time, but it still basically costs. It costs.
You get a slight discount, but not a lot.
Right.
Yeah, a slight discount.
Okay.
But considering the fact that you probably already upgraded that one, it just sucks. It stings.
It's not that great. And
if it's masterworked, it costs another Ascendant Shard to change it.
Ugh. Oh, man. Ouch.
Yeah. Ouch.
Yeah, that's...
Would you say that the rolls with, your base stat rolls with intellect, mobility, what have you, are enough motivation to collect more than 1 set of armor? Because I think that would be the problem they would have to solve, right? Is that you would only have 1 set of armor.
Yeah.
Instead of 3 sets of armor with this system, supposedly. Yeah?
Yeah. I would say that's...
They would have to introduce something else about armor to make it farmable. Otherwise, you're going to run into a problem of static rolls.
Yeah, where you just keep 1 roll that never sunsets.
Right.
Yeah. Like, you're like, oh, I got, a base roll of 68 on this chess piece, and there's no elemental affinity, so I'm just going to wear this chess piece from now until forever. I'm just going to masterwork it, and...
Yeah, because, if you're a purist, you're going to want your favorite armor with each affinity, right? Like, you want to triple your...
just your favorite armor, because that doesn't matter as much with transmog.
Right.
Well, what I was going to say is maybe potentially for that loadout thing, that if you really wanted, I want a high mobility armor set, and
that's what I was saying. Is those
recovery armor set?
I know, exactly. Would those stats be enough to throw it one way or another for the average player to choose one or the other?
For the average player, for the average casual player, no, I don't think so.
Right. Honestly, for me, I am not looking to get any more of... I never have enough resources to have more than 1 set, maybe 2, completely masterworked anyway, regardless of what its affinity is. So actually this Mod Academy is helping me a little bit in that I can say, okay, it's got this which one do I want to kind of focus on based on what I use more often. But that being said, I never farm for having more than just 1 set. I need an arc one, I want this, I'm looking for an arc set, I'm looking for a solar set, I'm looking for a void set.
Yeah.
Or
you can reset it at the beginning of getting the drop, and then that...
Right, and now that I know kind of what that is, it's well, hey, what do I want to focus on? I just got a pretty decent roll, I got a piece of armor to drop that's, say, in the mid-60s. but then I can look at its affinity and say, hey, do I want it to keep this affinity, or do I want to change its affinity? Do it now before.
And I think that's the design. That's how they want you to be thinking about armor. I'm just wondering if we did get rid of the affinities, if they could introduce something else that's better, because I don't think this is a beloved system.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
Well,
but we'll
I think
talk
it gets
about
ignored for the most part.
It really does, but there are, when we start talking about the combat mods, there are different kinds of families, different kinds of groupings in those elemental affinities. So,
it's going to get even more complicated.
It's going to get a bit more complicated, but you're still going to be able to tell, like, okay, if this is the build that I want, then this is the affinity that I want. And so if you get, like, let's say you wanted to try...
I think your best bet is just having 3 sets of armor, though. They don't need to be fully masterworked, but just somewhat masterworked.
Right, 3 sets of armor with the 3 different affinities.
Yeah.
I hear what you're saying.
But what I would love is just being able to use any mod on any armor.
Yeah, same.
But then... Again, that's like, but then what would be the point of ever farming for armor again?
Because of the synergy between the stats, I would guess, and also overall roll. You know, you want high rolls. You know, maybe you're
I was saying once you get your high roll.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, it's no different.
No more sunsetting.
No different for me. Because I don't pay attention to affinity now as it is. I mean, I might a little bit more after the Mod Academy today, but, you know.
You better.
Yeah.
Well,
curious enough, if Richard is still in the chat, since he's the one who plays the most out of all of us. Like,
I think we scared him
curious
off.
to know whether or not he looks at affinity and...
Of course he looks at affinity. All of his gears masterworked. He actually plays the game.
Yeah. He's not. He's definitely not.
I'm sure. I'm going to speak for him confidently, though. He doesn't like the affinity system.
Yeah, is there anyone that really does? It's almost like something we just have to live with, right? But nobody actually really enjoys it.
Well, Witch Queen is a big, yearly update.
Yep.
You never know what they pull out.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Greenstego, thank you so much. This is really enlightening for me. And I appreciate the way you are packaging this information to make it digestible and understandable as well. Really appreciate it. Thank you.
My pleasure.